My husband Daniel and I went camping for the very first time in Arizona. It was part of our long trip out west. I had picked out this really beautiful spot on a mountain overlooking the desert. The campsite was right next to a cliff, remote and isolated, at least 20 miles out on rough gravel roads deep in the national forest. When we arrived, we set up our tent, explored the area, and took photos of the incredible view. We noticed a few other campers scattered around, maybe 6 or 7 people total. There were 4 men from Arizona in one spot, and a woman with her dog a little further down the trail. We waved politely, but mostly kept to ourselves. We had heard rumors of a storm coming that night, but when we asked the group of men about it, they laughed it off. They said storms here usually passed quickly and weren't too bad. That gave us just enough confidence to stay. As the sun went down, we returned to our tent. Our car was parked just a few yards away, so I felt reassured. When darkness finally swallowed the forest, there were no stars, only heavy clouds. The air was eerily still, the type of silence that makes you uneasy. We crawled into our sleeping bags, hoping we could rest before the storm arrived. Around 10:30, thunder rolled through the mountains and rain began to smack hard against our tent. The sound was so loud it almost drowned out my thoughts. I was nervous about flash floods or the idea of sliding off the cliff, but eventually I forced myself to drift back to sleep. Not long after midnight, I woke up again. This time it wasn't thunder. Something heavy struck the side of our tent, like a fist slamming into the fabric, followed by a dragging sound, as if something was sliding down the wall. It happened every few minutes over and over. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, steady, deliberate footsteps right outside. My chest tightened, and my heart hammered so loudly I was sure whatever was out there could hear it. The footsteps stopped, and then a long, heavy sigh came from the other side of the tent. I gripped Daniel's hand, squeezing it over and over, hoping he'd wake up quietly. Instead, he startled awake and whispered too loudly. "What's wrong? Why are you squeezing my hand?" The footsteps stopped instantly. My stomach dropped. After a few moments, I told him what I had heard. We tried to convince ourselves it was just an animal passing by. Maybe a bear, maybe a deer. But the pounding sound on the tent walls continued every few minutes, and my nerves refused to settle. We told ourselves it was ice or branches falling from the trees. But then, the tent caved inward on Daniel's side, pushing down hard against his head. He whispered, "Something's pressing the tent." In a panic, he shoved upward with his hands. We heard the same sliding sound again, and suddenly it made sense. It wasn't a person pressing against us. Ice was building up on the top of the tent and collapsing under its weight. Huge chunks of frozen rain were falling from the branches above. Relieved it wasn't a bear, we pushed the tent clear of ice, brushed ourselves off, and tried to sleep. Daniel kept a small light on beside us for comfort. It was close to 3 a.m. when everything changed. From the pitch-black forest came the sound of a woman screaming. Her voice ripped through the night air with raw terror. We heard her cry out, "Oh my God, what the hell? Somebody help." My body went cold. The way she screamed didn't sound angry. It sounded like fear. Pure panic. Then more screams. "No, no, no, please no." Seconds later, the roar of a car engine ripped through the night, followed by tires skidding on gravel. The sound faded into the distance as the vehicle sped away. I was frozen in place, staring at Daniel. My hands shook as I reached over to turn off the light. I whispered frantically, "What do we do?" Neither of us had an answer. Finally, I grabbed my phone and called 911. I gave them our location as best I could, which wasn't easy since we were deep in the forest. They said an officer would be sent, but it could take over an hour in the storm. Waiting there in silence felt impossible. We decided to pack what we could and leave. Daniel ran back and forth gathering our valuables while I loaded the car, my hands trembling the whole time. We left the tent behind. It wasn't worth it. As we pulled away, Daniel noticed something chilling. The 4 men we had spoken to earlier, their tents were still there, but their cars were gone. They had left in a hurry, abandoning everything. Driving down that dark gravel road, my mind replayed the footsteps I had heard outside our tent earlier. What if it hadn't been an animal at all? What if it had been someone lurking, watching us, And what if the screams we heard were from the woman with the dog we had seen earlier that day? I still don't know exactly what happened on that mountain. But I know one thing. I'll never forget the sound of that woman's screams echoing through the storm. In our country, trespassing laws are very different. As long as you're respectful and don't cause any damage, you can walk almost anywhere you like. Hike over hills, wander into forests, even camp on beaches. The only rule is that when you leave the place exactly as you found it. I grew up loving that freedom. Every year my family would go camping, usually with a big group of my parents' friends and their kids. On average, there were 10 of us at a time, which made planning and packing a bit of a nightmare. But the destination always made it worth it. We always went to the same place. A remote beach tucked away on the coast. You had to drive for hours on winding roads before finally reaching it. And when you did, you'd see other campers lying along the sand, kids running around, and sometimes even yachts bobbing just offshore. It wasn't a party spot, more like an unspoken family retreat. Even the council had installed a small building with toilets and showers because too many people were sick of seeing strangers vanish behind bushes. The trip I'm about to tell you about happened in the spring of 2011. I remember because it was the first time we brought my dog, Daisy. She was a 6-month-old pup when I adopted her from a shelter in late 2010. They told me she had been rescued from a dogfighting ring. She was a mix of something, maybe lurcher and staffy, lean but strong, with a loyal streak a mile wide. She was sweet with people, gentle with other dogs, but if she sensed a threat, she was all teeth and fire. That spring, it was just my mom, my dad, my sister, and me. None of the family friends could make it. Honestly, I didn't mind. I'd rather hang out with Daisy anyway. We left late for some reason, which meant that by the time we reached the beach, the sun was already melting into the horizon. Not the best time to set up a tent. Usually we'd expect to find other campers already lighting fires, music playing, kids laughing. But when we pulled in that evening, the beach was empty. My parents unloaded the car anyway. My dad wrestled with the tent pegs while Mom handed out flashlights. My sister and I grabbed a few bags from the trunk, and I rolled the window down a crack for Daisy before joining them. That's when my mom noticed it. A car driving past in the narrow road that looped around the beach. At first it was nothing, but then it passed again and again. After about 15 minutes, the same car pulled up near ours. A man got out. He stumbled when he walked, his steps uneven, his body lurching like he was drunk, or worse, high. As he moved closer, the beam of my dad's flashlight caught something in his hand. A knife, a big one, at least 15 inches long, gleaming whenever the light hit it. My dad stood up immediately, gripping the camping mallet in his hand. He told us to get behind him. My sister and I were already crying, terrified. The man started shouting at us, yelling that we couldn't camp there, that we had to leave. His voice was ragged and wild. At first, my dad tried to stay calm. He told the man it was fine, that we'd go. But the stranger didn't back off. He kept moving closer, his words louder and sharper with every step. Soon both men were shouting. I'll be honest, I didn't think my dad stood a chance. If it came to a fight, I was sure that man would kill him. And maybe us too. But Daisy didn't hesitate. Like a wolf, she launched forward, teeth sinking into the man's arm. He howled and dropped the knife into the sand as she tore through his jacket and ripped into his skin. Blood darkened the sleeve as he kicked and punched, finally managing to throw her off. He snatched up the knife with his other hand and bolted back to his car. The engine roared, and he sped away into the night. We scrambled. We shoved our gear back into the car as fast as possible and piled inside. My heart was hammering so hard it made me feel sick. Daisy climbed in last, panting, her fur bristling but alive. That's when we noticed something strange. The car window was rolled halfway down. We realized she must have pawed at the old manual crank handle in her panic, forcing it open enough to squeeze out and save us. We decided we couldn't stay. Hotels wouldn't take us with a dog, so my dad said we'd just drive home, but we needed gas first. The nearest town wasn't far, so we headed there. When we pulled in the first gas station, it looked closed. My dad drove closer to check the sign. My mom asked what he was doing, and before he could answer, we all saw it. Parked in the shadows, half hidden behind a van, was the man. the knife man, sitting on his car, pressing tissues to the bloody wound on his arm. We didn't stop. My dad floored it and drove straight past, heading for the next town. The problem was, the next town was 60 miles away. We didn't have enough gas to make it, and the man knew it. His headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. He was following us. For the next 50 miles, he tailed our car. Sometimes he'd get close, so close I thought he might ram us. Other times he'd hang back, just a pair of glowing eyes in the dark. I broke down sobbing, convinced this was how it ended. Even my parents, who tried to stay calm for us, couldn't hide the fear in their voices. Finally, at a fork in the road, he turned off. Just like that, his car vanished into the night. By then our fuel meter was deep in the red, but by some miracle we rolled into a gas station just in time. We filled the tank, and the rest of the way home, my sister and I slept in the back. We were safe. We were alive. The next day, my mom called the police on a non-emergency line and reported what happened. They never followed up with us, but she said the man fit the description of someone wanted for murder. I don't know if he really was that man, or just some random lunatic. But either way, I'll never forget it. The only reason I'm here to tell this story is Daisy. She saved my dad's life that night. She saved all of us. She's older now, gray around the muzzle. But every time I look at her, I remember. And I know, without her, I might not be here at all. A couple of years ago, my best friend Leo and I decided we needed another camping trip. We're outside all the time, and we try to camp a few times each month if life lets us. It was late November in Virginia, that strange window where it's either surprisingly warm or a cold that cuts through your jacket. This time it was cold. Our girlfriends, Maya and Erin, have been teasing us for never taking them along. Honestly, we usually do primitive trips in rough, wet weather, the kind most people don't sign up for. But they insisted. We were secretly stoked they wanted to come. Saturday, we packed the car and drove 2.5 hours west into the mountains. The higher we climbed, the colder it got. A hard, needly rain began tapping the windshield. Maya squeezed my hand. The light was fading fast, and setting up in cold rain is no one's idea of cozy. Leo and I told them we had it. We'd done this 100 times. Our spot was a secret overlook, the kind where you can pull off to admire the ridgelines. After dark, the mountains became a black wall, and in the distance you could see a faint, flickering city horizon. Anyone who camps in the Blue Ridge knows this. When the sun drops behind the peaks, night lands like a curtain. It was raining, windy, and about 34 degrees. The kind of wind that rattles your jaw when you talk. We unpacked. I could see Maya and Erin shifting from excited to why are we here. To reach the campsite, you leave the overlook and follow a faint footpath that drops down a steep rock scramble, maybe 75 feet straight down to a ledge below the cliff. Not a marked trail, definitely not legal camping. More like a place bored teenagers sneak off to. We knew it was risky, but we were young and too confident. I hauled my pack out and headed toward the trailhead with Maya. We set our bags down to wait for Leo and Erin. 2 minutes passed. 5. The rain chilled my neck. Finally, I headed back. They were arguing. Erin looked furious. He locked the keys in the car, she said. Perfect. It was nearly 10 at night. Freezing. Raining. No cell service. The nearest town was 20 miles away. I swallowed my annoyance. We needed warmth first. I told Maya we'd head down and get a fire going while Leo figured out the car. We clicked on our headlamps. The mist blew sideways, turning the beams into a wall of floating sparkles that made it hard to see more than a few feet. We started a slow, clumsy relay. She climbed down a few yards. I passed both packs. She'd steady. I descend past her. Repeat. 20 minutes of careful scrambling and sore calves later, we were still 10 minutes from the shelf where we usually camped. That's when Maya whispered, "What is that?" I squinted into the fog. A tarp lay crumpled on the slate. "Score," I said, too cheerfully. "Free tarp." Maybe it blew off someone's setup above. I edged closer. A grocery store handbasket sat beside it, the plastic kind with a folding handle. Inside were snack wrappers and a crushed bottle. Maya's voice thinned. "Is someone under that?" "No way," I said automatically. We were miles from anywhere. One car at the overlook, ours. Freezing rain. No tent. No fire. No gear. Who could sleep on a 35-degree incline of slick slate? I crept to within 5 feet, headlamp steady. The tarp shifted. We both froze. My brain rejected it. Wind, I told myself. My eyes are playing tricks. Then it moved again, a sluggish, unmistakable roll, like a person waking up and trying to remember where they were. My heart punched my ribs. I turned to Maya and whispered, "Run." She was already scrambling up, stones clattering, palms skidding on wet rock. Behind us, a low, gravelly moan rose from beneath the tarp. Half asleep, half feral, and I followed fast. I stopped 10 yards up and killed my light. The rain hissed. Slate popped under shifting weight below. Whoever had been under the tarp was now up and moving. I forced my voice steady. "Hey, are you okay? We can help." Nothing. Not a word. Just wet stone and breathing. We kept climbing. By the time we reached the overlook, Maya was shaking. Aaron looked spooked. Leo looked sick. We told them what we'd seen. The keys were still locked in the car. The rain picked up, drumming on the hood. We huddled under a spare tarp while Leo wandered the overlook with his phone held high, praying for a single bar. I stared at the trailhead and didn't blink. If someone came up, I wanted to see them first. At last, Leo got a call through to a locksmith. After what felt like forever and a painful after-hours fee, a local guy arrived and popped the lock. We told him about the tarp and the basket, the movement, the silence. He listened, face grim. "Get out of here," he said. "Find somewhere else tonight." Then he added, almost to himself, "People hole up out here for a reason." He told us about hikers gone missing, about bodies discovered after spring thaw, about the kind of stories locals only tell when it's already too late to turn back. We didn't camp. We drove home. The car was quiet the entire way. I lay awake that night, replaying the scene. Who was under that tarp? How did they get there with no car? Why no fire? No pack, no light. Were they hiding? Running? Waiting? Every outdoors person learns this eventually. Out there, people are the bigger risk. I'd heard it 100 times. This was the first time I felt it in my bones. I kept thinking about everything I did wrong. Bringing Maya down a wet, unmarked drop in the dark. No service. Illegal spot. Overconfident. If something had happened, no one would have found us until morning. Maybe not even then. We don't set up at night anymore. The secret spot isn't a spot for us now. And Maya and Aaron don't ask to join the winter trips. I can't blame them. Sometimes when the rain hits the window just right, I still hear that tarp move. And I still wonder who was underneath it and why.